what exactly is low glycemic carbs? Let's talk about this. Carbohydrates. What is this?
Well, that's a topic, man, that I think has been, blown in so many different directions. And now you see people all over social media talking about how bad sugar is, how bad certain carbohydrates are, talk about keto diets, right? Talk about low glycemic. Everything is all related, and we're all talking about the same thing. Funny enough, man, a few years back, there were some studies done on sugar that basically say, hey, people are coming down with diabetes and obesity, and it's all because of sugar. And that's when all the taxes came about on sugary drinks and everything else. So there's certain truth to that, but at the same time, we got to think back about what sugar is, right? And we got to understand it. People looked at sugar as it's a bad thing to have. It's like, it's got sugar. Oh no, I got to stay away from that. In reality, sugar is our fuel. If we're an engine, our gasoline is sugar, man. That's where most of the energy comes from. Now, sugar gets broken down into glucose and fructose, all right? There's two components. Now, glucose, you heard of glucose, right? And the glucose goes into your blood. Now, when the glucose goes into blood, there's something called insulin. That is the bridge that brings the glucose into the cell, like muscle cell, for instance. And so now you can move your arm, it kind of gives you the energy. That's what sugar is, right? Now, carbohydrates, you talk about carbs, most people call it, they also are part of the same family as the sugar. However, they're more complex. Instead of having just glucose and fructose, there are a whole bunch of different, molecules in there of glucose, fructose, and galactose, or maybe some other type of sugars in it. But it's a huge chain. Now, that huge chain now goes into your stomach when you eat it, and then it also has to be broken down. But because it's so much bigger, it takes your system more time to basically break it down. Here's the thing, right? There are certain foods that contain a lot of these simple sugars, like sugar that has glucose, that goes into your bloodstream very fast, raising insulin. And now there's so much of this glucose in your blood that not all that glucose gets taken into the muscle. So you don't need, it's basically you're filling up your tank, but you're not using all the gasoline. Instead, you're going to reserve the gasoline, and how the body reserves it naturally is as fat. So in terms, that glucose turns into fat. And that's where the whole thing comes about: avoid sugary drinks, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're inactive and you have some of this food, then more than likely will turn into fat because you're not using it. But if you exercise, you need that as fuel for your exercise. Now, here's the cool thing, right? There's a way that we can introduce this energy, this gas, into our system, but instead of filling the whole tank, we do it at a pace, so that you start using the glucose in a slowly kind of way as you need it. And that's where your question about low glycemic comes into place, man. It's all interrelated. So the glycemic is a way of measuring glucose. It's an indication of glucose in your bloodstream. So there's certain foods that have high glycemic number, and there's certain foods that have low glycemic index. The lower the number, the slower that glucose gets into your bloodstream, and it fits your body slowly. The higher the glycemic index, the faster it goes into your muscle, and then it turns, into energy. But if you don't use it, it turns into fat. If you had to choose between carbohydrates, and you're a normal person, that exercises, half an hour a day, then you could benefit from a little bit of sugar and some of these low glycemic index carbohydrates that will basically feed your body through the day without having to be stored as fat. It's a long explanation, man, but hopefully,
No, I got it. I think I got it. So you have like low glycemic carbs, which are carbohydrates that are just broken down in the body slowly. And because of that, they result in like a gradual rise in blood sugar levels. And so When you contrast that to something like high glycemic carbs, which are broken down quickly, they can cause those blood sugar levels to spike. And so you want to balance it out. When you start to talk about these terms, such as like low glycemic carbs and high glycemic carbs, it can just be the most confusing experience on the planet. And so being able to sit here and just have a candid conversation and just be like, yo, look, low glycemic carbs are broken down slower, and that's going to give you gradual energy over time.
That's right.
High glycemic carbs, they're going to give you that power right away. It's like a Red Bull, but you need to do something with that energy. Otherwise, that energy will do something to you.
Got it. You got it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So I'm
now,
I'm a car guy. High glycemic carbs is like nitrous. Low glycemic carbs, just like that gasoline. You get that premium 93, or if you really bumping, you got that diesel that's gonna burn slow.
You got it. You got it 100%, man. That's it. There isn't a bad carb. It just all depends what your intentions is.
For low glycemic carbs, give me 3 things you like to eat.
Low glycemic carbs, we have beans, legumes, and brown rice. This is all the 3 ingredients I just mentioned. We have them right here.
You cheated.
Well, it's not cheating. Listen,
okay, I see.
Here's the thing: if you're designing something with a purpose, our purpose was to develop something that had the low glycemic index, sustain energy, which is what it's in here.
All right, I see what you did. I like it. I respect that. So if I want to eat something that's high glycemic carbs, what's your top 3? What's your favorite?
I'll say potato, pasta, sugar.
Thank you, Dr. Juan. It's been great. I will see you in the future.
Later, bro.